Really? Alexander, or do you prefer to be called Alex?
I actually prefer Alexander. Thanks for asking.
Good.
Because my mother prefers it, so.
Good. I'm for that.
Okay.
Alexander, I looked forward to this meeting because election and about Schmidt, you know, favorite films, and now Sideways, I'm sure, is going to be added to that list of favorite Alexander Payne films for people. But let's start with the title, Sideways.
Uh-huh.
What's the background?
The question?
Yeah.
So are you rolling? Okay. The title Sideways is something that I myself have never really questioned because I didn't think about it. It was that, you know, this movie is the adaptation of the novel, which carried the name Sideways. And in the novel, there are a couple of lines of dialogue. Oh, hey, brother, look out, you've gone sideways, something like that, referring to, I think, a state of inebriation and or a state of just being a little off the wall. Those lines of dialogue didn't make it into the film, but I still like the title. So some people are trying to think, well, maybe it's because wine is stored on its side, and other people say, well, these are two guys, they don't really progress in life, they just kind of move laterally, kind of sideways, and I wouldn't argue with either of those possible explanations of Sideways, but for me, I just think it's a nice title. I like its mystery.
Rex Pickett, who wrote the novel, do you think that it's autobiographical for him in any way?
I know it's autobiographical for him in a lot of it, in many ways. I mean, he really is a version of Miles, or Miles, the lead character, Paul Giamatti, is a version of him, a wine-obsessed novelist who wasn't having much luck getting his stuff published. Indeed, to the degree that the book Sideways, when it reached me in 1999, was unpublished and was Rex Pickett's second or third novel, which had not found a publisher. So in making Sideways into a movie and then that spurring its publication as a novel, it's really turned Rex's luck around to a large degree. But he really is that guy. He's from LA and goes wine tasting in Santa Barbara County a lot and loves showing off his wine knowledge in a lovely way to his friends, and so it's very autobiographical.
How many different wineries did you film in?
I think we shot in 5 or 6 wineries and then featured the wines of other winemakers from that area, and it was a lot of fun to do so.
Yes, the homework must have been wonderful.
Very pleasant, if slightly liver enlarging, yes.
How did you select the wineries?
The wineries at which we shot and whose wines are featured in the film really became a matter both of necessities for the film and of personal taste. I mean, there was no product placement. No one paid us or made a case, hey, feature me, feature me. But where we shot, the places were selected by the production designer and myself as we visited every single winery which had a tasting room in Santa Barbara County. And we thought, well, you know, what looks best for our purposes? And then the wines that are featured, well, in tasting all the wines and getting to know some winemakers and learning about wine and visiting vineyards with them and barrel rooms and doing a lot of tasting, we just sort of started to include the wines that we liked. Again, I include my production designer because she was active with me in choosing the wines.
When you were filming a scene that required people to drink wine, did you use real wine?
Often we did. Often we did use real wine. The property master, I had given him orders that if the actors are going to be drinking fake wine, you've got to replicate the colors exactly. Pinot has to look like Pinot. Syrah has to look like Syrah. Chardonnay must be Chardonnay, etc. But sometimes the concoctions that he had to come up with weren't really pleasant for the actors. Some, you know, prune juice with cranberry, or, you know, grape juice with this or that, and they'd be too sweet, or so they'd say, to hell with it, just give me some real wine. So I would say about half the movie they were drinking real wine.
And no problems with people getting a little sloshed?
Well, since the movie is about people who are basically sloshed most of the time, I mean, you know, it all kind of fit in. It was fine. But you know, when you're drinking that much wine and you're in the wine country, you drink a lot, but without getting sloshed. There's just, you build up a certain tolerance, and it's just wine is in the air, and it's just all fine somehow.
I think you assembled an amazing cast.
Thank you very much.
Just right on, perfect casting. So let's talk a little bit about Paul Giamatti. How did you visualize him, or how did he come to it?
Well, my co-writer Jim Taylor and I never write with actors in mind. So while we were writing and as I began casting, I really had no idea who was going to play Miles. I just was open. And so every new actor who auditions or whom I meet, I'm able to glue his or her face onto the kind of amorphous blob that I've had in my brain until then. So I'm very open to actors. But somehow when I auditioned Paul Giamatti, when he came in to read for me, and he read cold. He hadn't read the screenplay. He had barely received the pages in advance. And he did such a good job, and I felt such a full and soulful human being behind this actor capable of also playing an everyman that I grew intoxicated with him, and then went back and watched some of his other work with which I was unfamiliar. And this is going to sound like a joke, but it's true. I felt like he could make even the worst dialogue work. I mean, as a director, you look for that. Who's an actor who can make even bad dialogue, potentially bad dialogue work? And he's the guy, and I'm so happy. I feel so lucky to have cast him and to have found him.
Thomas Hayden Church is, I like him as an actor, but boy, for me it was hard to like that character. As a woman, it was really hard for me
it's
to like that
right.
character. But how did you come to find him?
Thomas Hayden Church, a Texan, by the way, as you probably
from
know.
Dallas.
Yes. He, I had never seen his TV series, Wings, for which he's famous, and also Ned and Stacy. I'm not much of a TV watcher, and so I knew him only from auditions. He had auditioned for Election, and later he had auditioned for About Schmidt. So, and he makes a strong impression. I don't know whether you've met him, but he's funny and very intelligent and loud, and he's got a larger-than-life personality. So he made a strong impression. Hauled him in to have him audition for this one, for Sideways, and, third time was a charm. And you mentioned that he's a bit unlikable, but I would, and I'm sure you mean this, what the character does is very kind of hideous. He does some hideous things, yet sympathy for characters often comes in casting, not so much in what's on the page. So my hope is that at least Thomas, in portraying that part, he brought a lot of humor and I think compassion to the character he was playing, and maybe I think he makes the guy watchable. I mean, audiences seem to really, if not forgive him, then at least accept him and laugh at him and have a good time with that character, as painful as it is.
His redeeming quality is that he gets Miles, gets some life into Miles.
Mm-hmm.
That's his redeeming. He's
willing to live life, no matter, even though he's a little bit reprehensible in some ways. Well, we all are, for Pete's sake. But yeah, he has a certain joy for life that Miles envies.
Now we must talk about Sandra Oh, who is also Mrs. Alexander Payne.
Yes, that's correct.
And did she know much about wine before this?
She did, I think, a little bit, but mostly through me, because I had been kind of an amateur wine enthusiast and not really a connoisseur at all, but I've liked wine and I've known a certain degree about wine. And since we've been together, she's begun to share that, and she likes wine. She has a really good palate, by the way. No, she didn't know a whole. I mean, we both learned a lot making the film. I'll say that much. A quantum leap up in wine knowledge.
In the film, does she have to ride the motorcycle and drive the motorcycle?
Oh yeah, she learned how to ride a motorcycle for the film. She'd never been on one before.
And no spills and no broken
No,
limbs?
she did great. She had an excellent teacher, a stunt guy, who spent a lot of time with her, getting her familiar with the motorcycle, and she actually showed some talent for it.
Watch out.
Yeah, right.
Christmas, a big Harley.
Yeah.
What about you? Do you like to ride them?
No, I've never ridden a motorcycle. I mean, I've been on the back of someone before, and it's kind of fun, but I'm not really that interested.
And now we come to Virginia Madsen.
Oh, yeah.
Why doesn't this woman work more?
Well, maybe she will now. maybe after this film comes out, and if people see this film and see how good she is. You know what, though, to be fair, she has always been working. She's never stopped working, but maybe not so much recently in noticeable theatrical films. She has a wonderful career on television, doing TV movies and doing guest star roles. But yeah, I've been getting a lot of comments about her, compliments about her, saying it's so nice to see her reemerge, in a way, on the big screen. And she's a really great person too, real soulful gal.
That comes across.
Yeah.
Yeah, her
Oh,
eyes.
yeah.
Her
Yeah,
eyes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Easy on the eye too.
Yes, right. Some people are saying, some women are saying, that this is a guy movie. What would you say to them?
Well, I'm never going to argue with anyone's perception of any of my films, but I think, though, I've heard other things, though. I've heard and early test screenings of the film, you know, with the focus groups and all, revealed that, yes, they might see it as a guy film, but with enough elements that could have, I mean, women seem to be getting a lot out of the film. They might be shocked by some of the things the guys do, but there's a romance in it. I mean, it's not just a buddy film. I mean, it kind of starts as a buddy film, but then it quickly, I mean, about halfway through, the more interesting relationship is this romance, whether it's going to blossom or not, and whether Paul Giamatti's character is going to be able to open himself to love again. And I think, and also the gals are presented really as full-fledged human characters, not just as devices somehow to further the men. I mean, they are to a certain degree, but somebody said it's like a buddy film for chicks, or a chick flick for guys. I've heard those comments too.
Well, whatever they call it,
Yeah.
I think they're going to call it a lot of fun.
No, I hope so.
And I would predict very big success for Sideways.
Well, thank you.
And I thank you, Alexander, for coming to Dallas and giving us a chance to talk with you about Sideways.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay. Now she's going to move the camera around for editing
All right.
purposes, because we already have your answer. Okay. To you, what is the significance of the title Sideways?
Well, I never really thought about it that much. It came with the novel.
That's fine.
Does it matter what I say?
No, because we've got your answer.
Oh, okay.
already. Yeah.
All right.
No, this is just to get your head moving in case he wants to hang on to
Okay,
my
good.
shot
All right,
for
very good.
2 seconds. All right. Is Sideways autobiographical for Rex Pickett, the novelist?
I do like the carpet in this room. I kind of like the alternate red and green and orange checks.
All right, and let me ask that another way. Do you think that Sideways is autobiographical for the novelist Rex Pickett?
I think it's wonderful how you just have one crew person move the lights and do the camera. She kind of does everything for you. I'd hold on to her if I were you.
I try.
Yeah.
I try. Okay. How did you select the wineries?
Oh, well, I see that big whiteboard over there. Is that what she uses to white balance?
Probably.
Yeah.
That or my notepad.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see where I'm trying to replay the tape in my head. Wineries. Okay.
The actors?
Yeah.
Okay.
How did Paul Giamatti come to you?
So I really want to stress to you, though, I think you should write your book. That would be a great, I would read your book in a heartbeat.
All right. We have that on, we have that. Okay, hang on to that audio.
Okay.
Okay. Thomas Hayden Church may offend some women or rub women the wrong way. What do you think?
Well, that might happen, but he's such a good actor that they might forgive him, or they might want to run out and sleep with him.
Okay. Your wife, Sandra Oh, plays the wine expert,
Mm-hmm.
And let me start. Your wife, Sandra Oh, plays the wine expert. Was she or is she a wine expert?
Actually, she likes bourbon. She's a big bourbon drinker. She wakes up in the morning, leans over, and has to have a slug before she can even get out of bed.
Okay. Now this is in reference to I'll set it up.
Okay.
When you were filming scenes where the actors had to drink wine, did you use real wine?
Oh yeah, often we did. We used a lot of real wine.
Okay, all right. And did you have actors getting sloshed?
Well, maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe no, maybe yes.
Okay. All right. Why is it Virginia Madsen doesn't work more?
I don't know. Maybe because she's such a diva, and she makes life really hard for her trainer, her bodyguards. It's just a big pain in the butt.
And never mind. Okay, just a minute. Okay. Oh, this is something I wanted to ask you, and it's all right that we just have the audio.
Okay, all right.
Okay. You have a credit that says no California. You have a credit that says no California oak trees injured, harmed. What is that all about?
That's a good question, and how observant you are that you actually sat through the credits and read all that stuff. So, California oak trees are protected in the state. You can't trim them or cut them down without some sort of permission. So late in the film, when Miles and Jack crash their Saab into the oak tree, well, we wanted to make sure that people knew that we built a false trunk around the real trunk of that oak tree to protect it. And protect it we did.
That is very interesting. Very good. Okay, that'll get it.